Happy Tuesday, everybody. Rodney, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good, and it's hot out. It's hot out.
It's awful. It's awful. It's so hot.
It's making me sweat.
How hot is it?
um,
It is. Let me look it up. Well, it's 95 degrees today.
Geez Louise. And I'm going to be going out to Hermitage after our show today, so say a prayer for me.
I will.
For anybody that's not seen us before, that's this crazy crew. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. This is Middle Tennessee. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great place to live. I've been here for quite a while now, and I'm with my best buddy Rodney Wilds. He's loan officer with First Bank here in Franklin, Tennessee, also in Williamson County. And we're here to we've got opinions on things, and we're going to share those opinions. If you agree, great. If you don't, just say so. There, we've got a chat box there all ready to go. But we'd love to answer your questions. You can get a hold of us, phone, text, email. It's all in the description box. Pretty sure you know how to do that. Tell me what's going on with you, Rodney. Did you golf this weekend?
I played in the Music City Golf Association. It was a senior amateur championship. It was a great tournament. I was playing pretty good till the last day. I let my emotions get the best of me. If you're a golfer, you understand what that means. I got sick of playing bad, and then when you do that, you immediately go into playing worse until you get out of it. So that's what I did. I I talked myself into playing bad, so I did for a minute, but had a great time. Met a few people. Had seen some old friends I hadn't seen in a long time. It was a good weekend. How about you?
I'm into the Olympics. I'm into it. I love the emotion of it. I mean, it just reminds me it's it's inspirational for me. People are doing great things and it's aspirational. It helps me set goals that are way bigger than my reach. And that's what I like about the whole thing is people are doing much greater things than they ever expected, most of the time, sometimes not. But here's something that I've noticed, and I don't, I don't want to be political. I'm not going to get political, but here's something I've noticed during the Olympics. I've noticed there's very little bitching about the USA in terms of social media during the Olympics. Cause we're one big happy family now, gold medal for USA. Yes. Soon as we get done with the Olympics, it'll go back to sniping and.
But joined up as a team, yeah. It's I've been enjoying some of that too. It's did you hear that the runner's comments that basically he was like, why are they calling the basketball team world champions? He is like world champions. He is like, I don't understand that. But I was like, well. I mean, the USA basketball team has only won the Olympics ever since they've had it, right? I mean, and it's so I don't know what he was talking about, but it was that Noah Lyles dude that won by what a crazy finish that race was.
He won though.
Yeah,
I mean, and I was, hey, hats off to him.
yeah.
Congratulations. Now, shut up about it.
Hey, did you
That's
see
kind of
that finish? That photo finish
yeah.
of that Noah Lyles? So did you know that? Because I was looking at it, I was like, but this other guy's foot is further along than his foot was.
Okay.
Like, it clearly looked like the Jamaican's guy foot was way over the line. It was. But it's whose ever's chest is the closest to the line, not a
Oh,
foot or a head or whatever. It's their torso.
daggone.
And I was like, I didn't know that. So they went to the photo finish, and that's, and then the American won. So that's pretty
How
cool.
about you heard it here first?
Yeah. We're
Your
all things
torso.
podcast here.
If you're running races and you've got a gut like I do, my chances are improved.
Yes. Just stand straight up. Have good posture. Let your belly do the work for you.
Throw your shoulders back and your belly forward. Big win for the Ange.
Yeah.
Well, You know what time it is? You know what time it is, Rodney?
I know what time it is.
Okay. Oh yeah, I love that. Screen with the
Nice.
pip. Pip, there we go. Here we go.
What about this? Green is good. Okay. We have had probably the second or third greatest improvement in the shortest period of time in probably decades. This July, you can see right here, we've had a very nice increase, about a week to 10-day run right there. Um, and we'll get into more of that later, but it's awesome to see. The one thing I'll point out is all of these, if you can see back months ago in this range right here, you see the candlesticks when rates are operating within these ranges. We call these floors of support and ceilings of resistance. So we have broke through all of those moving averages and have no ceiling of resistance right now. It could be, if it depending on economic data, there's a lot of people that really think we could see a decent run in rates over the next several months. So, but very good news. Hey, when it's we've had a nice run here, almost 100 basis points there or so. With the bad economic data that's been coming out, we're expecting the Fed to do some kind of lowering the rate, which is not, it's not exactly our rate, but it does affect it. So that's
Well,
about it. Good times in the rate business right now, where it's a good signal.
yeah, and now, I mean, because it was close to 7, it was 6, 8, 9, and then yesterday I looked up, and I'm always I get alerts on my phone from Mortgage News Daily. I mean, it's not tied to the rates or anything, but just throughout the day, and it had dropped to like 639 or something. It was like, that smells like about a half a point to me. I mean,
It's awesome. We've got a couple customers right now. It's locked in, and we're kind of going over the rates, what they're doing every few days, and I expect by the end of it we get a significant improvement for them from the first time they've locked in. So we're excited about it.
from a lender's perspective, I have a question for you. Because I don't know how fast you can move. Let's say that somebody is in the market for a home and they're actively in the search, but you haven't locked them into anything because it's just maybe not time yet, or you're kind of waiting to see if there's improvement. If they drop like a half a point during the day like that, can somebody just call you and say, lock me in at that? Does that work that way?
Yes, let's say normally what we need is somebody to have a property, right, to lock. You really have to have a contract and a closing date, or something
Mm-hmm.
so we know what to lock it to, right? So we need a property. We do have a program, Lock and Shop, but it's not that great, so we don't use it very often. So, but just in a normal circumstances, yes, if somebody is floating, if they've taken an application, they're under contract and they're just waiting to see what the rates are doing, um, and they see an improvement, they can call at any time during the day and get locked in. And we can even, not all companies can do this, but we can even lock them in late at night if we want to, um, past market hours or whatever. So.
One of these days soon, we'll have to have on our show an entire segment dedicated to the programs that you offer, because the lenders are different. I know this from
Yeah.
experience. And some people specialize a little more on this or that or whatever, but maybe we could have a program day, where we just,
Hey, you're in charge of it. All you had to do is say it.
okay, let's do that in the next couple of weeks and see what we got going on. So the first thing that you're ready to kind of dive into this just a little bit and see
Yeah,
what's
let's jump in.
okay. Today's going to be a little bit different, and the reason is for the shock yesterday when the stock market tanked about 1,000 or so. It's better today, but with the jobs report was, I think that was last Friday, and in the fallout from that. Now, for anybody that's watching this on the replay, I've never claimed to be a financial guru of any kind, but I'm interested in the topic, and I probably know just enough to be dangerous. And what we're doing here on our show is we've got opinions, but what it translates to is that when we're dealing with buyers and sellers for each, Rodney and I, what people think and how they feel about the market is as important as what's really going on in the market. If the rates are kind of high, but they're motivated to buy for whatever reason, the rates kind of don't matter. It matters how people feel, and that's really I find that to be interesting on this thing. I hope that makes sense. But the jobs report stokes fears that the Fed may have waited too long. I'm going to read through some of this because I thought, let me pop this up, do this a little different. Yeah, I thought this is pretty good. It says new signs of a cooling labor market are stoking fears that the Federal Reserve may have waited too long to start lowering interest rates. We're starting to talk about recession again. That word is coming up, recession. I don't think they're just talking about it. I don't think it's going to happen. But data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics released Friday showed the economy added 114,000 non-farm payroll jobs. Interesting how they break that out. Fewer than the 175 expected. The unemployment rate rose to 4.3. Now, it was also heard, I also understand, that part of that unemployment number came from the jobs that were lost temporarily from the hurricane in Texas. Did you hear that too, Rodney?
No, I actually haven't heard that was like they were giving that, weighting any of that as far as a positive spin on the jobs report.
Yeah, I mean, it just entered in the conversation. I don't think that they were able to quantify that. There's this gentleman I was listening to on the Business Network, but some are saying that could just be careful, because if that was part of it, they're going to be back to work and things will improve pretty quickly. So the new numbers reinforce concerns among some Fed watchers that the central bank should have decided at a meeting this week to lower rates for the first time in 4 years to get ahead of the slowing U.S. economy into a recession. The report, I'm going to read this and toss it to you. The report is definitely going to raise concerns now that the Fed is behind the eight ball, suggesting that they've painted themselves into the corner a little bit. Any thoughts on that so far, Ronnie?
Yes, I'm with the guy blaming them that they're behind the eight ball. I think
you've been saying to be a little more hawkish, dovish than. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's what they're thinking, and so the Friday jobs report just about guarantees that you're going to get a 25 basis point in September cut. So that seems to be a good thing. Now, cuts, we need to have that to improve the economy, at least as far as we're concerned, and it may not work that way overall for everybody. If rates come down, if you've got savings in an interest-bearing account, you're not digging that too much. But for those that are getting mortgages, they are digging it. It's sort of plus and minus. But so the 25 basis point September cut also puts the table cuts in November, December. So now everybody's starting to ramp up this. We're going to get a bunch. There's even a rational argument to be made, and this was the point that I kind of wanted to get to. There is even a rational argument to be made that a 50 basis point cut could be made at the September meeting. And that argument is going to be waged over the next 6 weeks. Stephen Brown, Deputy Chief North American Economist for Capital Economics, said the new numbers could even increase speculation. The Fed could kick off its loosening cycle with an intra-meeting move before September. Brown also mentioned that 50 basis points. That's what I was trying to get to, and it took me a minute. That wouldn't it be amazing, because they're off in this month, August, wouldn't it be amazing that they spoke up and cut rates and to avoid this before the September thing?
It would be amazing. I think it's 0.00% chance.
Really?
Yeah, just because there's not a lot of data coming out between now and their next meet. You know, you got the CPI next week. Um, but yeah, no, that would be awesome. What would be more awesome if they did a half a point cut in September? That would be phenomenal. Um, you know, but um, that's where I stand on it. I think it would be phenomenal if they did it. I just don't think they're going to do it. This guy won't, I mean, he's been resistant this whole time to give us this first quarter. I mean, they talked about these cuts starting in April, March of this year. And
Yeah.
this dude has been holding on to him like it's his last biscuit. I mean, he is not giving this rate cut away. I mean, so for me to think they're going to do an a special meeting to lower the rates, no, I don't think so.
But here's, and I always end up in the same place. And for anybody that watches this, I really feel strongly about this. What people need in order for business to be, I'm going to call a normal cycle, where people are buying and selling and not thinking too much of it, instead of these rates that are, I mean, if you go from 7 to 6.39, now everybody's paying attention, right? There's, for the longest time, we're, 6, 8, 9 for a long time. People were like, okay, this is what it is. I can live with that for those that can live with it, right? And all of a sudden it drops down to 6.39 and go, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I better wait. So that puts people into that, in my opinion, it puts people into that waiting mode when that happens. When those rates drop down, it's like, wait, lower rates are possible, And if let's say that they actually did drop it a quarter in the intra-meeting thing, what do you think people would do? I'm just asking.
I think one, like you said before, the rates are already in, let's say, the mid sixes. Just guessing at credit and all that stuff. So if we're already in the mid sixes, and some of that's taken in the consideration already that it's a 70% chance that he lowers it in September.
Correct. Yep.
Or it's higher than that, actually. It's a 70% chance at a 50 basis points reduction. It's higher at a quarter basis points reduction. So, yeah, when he lowers it, I think they're going to have to lower it. And I'll say it right now. I think that they're going to term us in a recession in about a year or two from now. That we're already in it.
Really?
I mean, what? How many? Our job markets had been taking a hit. Inflation's going down. I don't know what else they could be looking for. Yes. I think we're already into a semi-recession. Like I've always said, he's trying to. Mr. Powell is if you consider our economy as like a huge battleship out in the ocean. We talked about how slow it is to turn.
Oh man!
But when you start seeing, you got to turn it before you get there. Like, I keep saying, I mean, he's like, if his inflation was at 2%, then maybe he should have been lowering the rates at 3% because it's going down. Like, he's only going to come out and say it's at 2% when it's at 2%, and then it's too late to, we're already there, if that makes sense.
Right. And I think that they've been making the argument that they've done enough, damage. And I don't mean that negatively, but they've put the brakes on enough, and that they're having other conversations. I mean, because he's talking about lowering the rates, so that's what he's doing, is letting his foot off.
Well, everybody else is talking about lowering rates. He's like his thing was a rate cut is on the table for February. I mean, for September. It's on the table for discussion or whatever for September.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
rate people now. Okay, first of all, you got to understand what position I'm in. I'm a mortgage person, and rates are my business. So,
yeah,
waiting on Fed Jerome Powell to lower these rates is like me waiting on Christmas coming. It's terrible. he needs to get on with it and get the rates back down and get people moving again.
Okay.
Get us out of this recession.
Message received. I'm not going to badmouth rates anymore. I got a news for you. I'm going to be careful with that.
Well, you know the difference between a recession and a depression, don't you?
A recession is when somebody else has got it, and depression is when you do. Is that what it is?
That's it. Recession's when your neighbor's out of work, and depression's when you're out of work.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Ta-da.
It's official.
So the way they're trying to measure this jobs report that we were just popping up there, it really is significant, and it just tells you that, and that's a difficult thing to turn around, because once you start firing people, it's expensive to hire people. It's expensive. You got to train people for jobs. If that person you fired has moved on to someplace else, it's more than, hey, come on, it's more than just come, hey, show up to work. So continue on. We look at not just 1 month. They're talking about how do they measure the impact on the job loss. We look at not just 1 month, but trends. The 3-month average is 170,000 and there's continued strong job growth. Apparently, I guess that's the case. But one concern for some Fed watchers is the 4.3 unemployment rate now triggered what's called the SAM rule. Have you ever heard of that? I sure hadn't, but had you?
Yeah, no, I'd read up on it after I seen this article. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep. This is a rule developed by economist Claudia Sam, I hope I'm saying that right, that has successfully predicted recessions 100% of the time since the early 70s. Those are pretty good odds, so those are 100% of the time since the 70s. That's like Rodney and I going back, and we've closed 100% of our loans, which we have, by the way. On time, by the way. Jordan would remind me of one, but he takes credit for that. The important threshold crossed Friday was the 3-month average of the national unemployment rate rose more than 0.5 point from the previous 12 months low. Here's what it looks like. Bing. That's what it looks like. That's what triggered that SAM rule, meaning people are going to start talking about recession. And that's what it is on a kind of a close-up thing. Now, this is well beyond the scope of, I don't watch jobs and that kind of stuff. But I sure pay attention when they start talking about recession, But isn't it true, though, if we don't go too deeply into it, that when let me think about this. The effort that he would take to turn it around would mean that it's going to be easing of the monetary policy. So it's going to be easier for people to get loans. And then sellers and such, they're going to be more motivated with those lower rates to do what they've got to do outside of, everyday, not emergency, but life-changing stuff. That's the stuff. Those are the homes that are being sold now, despite the rates. But I mean, isn't that the game when you just get down to it? When he uses things to get out of a recession?
Like, I think they'll use like housing. Housing will pull you out of recession. A great housing market will pull the whole country out of a recession.
Mm-hmm.
Something big, because housing is so important into our GDP and everything, right?
Oh, it's big.
So, I absolutely, I think the housing will do that. But as if they start cutting in September, I think that's what's going to help drive the boat. And obviously, I think that the economic factors have to go along with it, because normally in a low rate environment, job markets are not great, or they're not crazy good. Like I said, when they're that low, it's usually they're pulling the Americans out of a recession. So you think about housing might be good, but everything else is bad. But the last few years, a lot of the other industries have been good, and housing's not been great.
Right. Yeah. It just seems to me, this kind of gets me excited. The fact, tell me and check me on this, because I need to be checked on that. Probably my head needs to be checked. So what the problem is. I think that the fact that I don't like the word recession, and the stock market, I'm not looking at it currently, but I saw it this morning and it seemed to have rebounded pretty well overnight. I think it's still doing pretty good now. I'm not looking at this minute. So I haven't heard of any. Have you heard of any sell-offs currently? I don't know.
No, it's bounced back a little bit. It's
Okay.
not bad, it's not going crazy like
Oh,
it was. But
so yesterday we're getting over yesterday a little bit. Yesterday was traders saying that they're pissed off. But the thing that gets me excited about real estate, despite the changes that are coming, the fundamental is somebody needs to move, somebody wants to move. There's two different types of clients there, and then somebody wants to buy what they're leaving. If it's not new construction, new construction is a big deal. They're trying to catch up. They're falling short of that. But when he starts dropping rates, what I feel, it's like the pent up demand that we've talked about for a year now is, it's got to be extraordinary. The pent up demand. I can't imagine.
I'll throw something else at you on pent up demand. I seen another stat. I've already, from the surveys and stuff, there's already a bunch of people that's getting really close to getting rid of the golden handcuffs, right? Because we
Yeah.
get the rate in the fives, maybe even the low fives. It's going to take care of the golden handcuff effect, right? So a lot of that will be gone. But from ages 25 to 35, 2 years ago, now so we're 2 years behind on this stat, so it could even be worse. It went from like 12% to 17% of people still living with their parents
Yeah.
from 25 to 35. So you've
Right.
got all these people right here, the 25, 35 is a pin up. It's the highest number since 1940 that they've had this big of a percent of our population living at home with parents. These people will be buying from ages 25 to 35 if these rates get more in line.
Yeah. Yeah.
To add on top of the normal pin-up demand of people in the market needing to sell their house, I think we've got a whole new category of people that will be entering the market as well. That's been the pin-up demand over these last several years.
Yeah, because I'm sure that, and you're talking about that category that's still at home with mom and dad, right? Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, because
Plus
you
the
got,
category of people like myself who would like to move. I'd like to move, but I don't want to trade my low rate for just a regular mover.
yeah. And for
I'd like
people
to move
like
to
that are
my
still,
city.
and for people like that are still living at home, they're probably making a decent living. And you got two sources of motivation. And I mean this, I'm not trying to be funny or unkind. They want to get out and their parents want them to get out. So they're both, they're both motivated to go, no, go look at houses. It's fine. We'll help you.
Yeah, yeah.
No, go ahead.
You get rates at 4% or something like that, and the parents will be out helping them look.
Want me to help you pack? I bought you some boxes. So just two other thoughts on this particular topic, and this Claudia Sam, again, I hope I said her name right. Do I think we're in a recession right now? Sam told Yahoo Finance. No, do I think that? No is the answer. Do I think that the increases in the unemployment rate and the softening in the labor market is worrisome, and we could end up in a recession in say 3 months or 6 months? Yes, she's very concerned about that, and that matches what you were saying too, Rodney. So her base case is also that the Fed will start cutting in September. The only way the Fed would cut before that is in the event of a crisis, and we're not in a crisis. So there you go. I mean, and I think that yesterday was pretty much with the job, or it's Friday, the jobs report, and then the stock market was just kind of a wake up call saying, pay attention to me. The thing that, when we talk about crisis, though, how do you blend in? Let's move this right over here. One of the things that's holding people up, and I heard this personally this week from somebody, is they're waiting to see what happens in the election. The election uncertainty is causing some buyers to just like wait. Do you have any thoughts about that initially, Rodney?
Yes, I mean, first, you always hear it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the solar eclipse. People are going to wait for things. It's in their nature. Like if something's going on, people like hit a pause for a minute and wait. Um, so yes, and especially during elections, you always hear, "Well, I'm waiting to see what's going on in the election," or I want to see how this turns out." Knowing the next day, nothing's really going to change drastically for you. It's just this is one of these things you're putting on yourself as far as determining when it's best to buy a house. But yes, election uncertainty puts pause on everything. Seems like a lot of different decisions that people make, in housing is definitely one of them. But it's kind of weird to me. I'm like, would I buy this house? And then I'm thinking, well, I really don't want it if that's my president. You know what I'm saying? It's just not my line of thinking. I'm like, but I guess, people try to time the market, and this is part of that. Um, part of how people, try to time the market, when it's the best time to sell, when it's the best. You can always do your due diligence, but you really, like if you're selling in 2024 or a 3 month period in 20, that's the time you get to choose. You know what I'm saying? So you're really limited to what the market's actually doing or what you get to choose from. But yes.
Well, here's what I've got to say about that, and hopefully you were able to get to this article. I sent it to you a couple of different ways. The lead up to major elections can spell uncertainty, which sometimes translates into negative effects on the economy and the housing market. During this presidential election cycle, major issues among voters include housing affordability. We haven't even touched on that. Inflation and jobs. But what about buyers who sat on the sidelines waiting for their moment to jump back into the housing market? Should they continue to wait or go ahead and buy now? Here's some statistics for you. According to a new survey conducted by Veterans United Home Loans, sorry, by another company, and consulting partners, Sparketing, don't know who that is. The majority of respondents said the upcoming presidential election is influencing their decision and timing to buy a home. It doesn't matter if the election has an effect or not. The effect that these people have decided to wait is all that matters. It
is the effect. Yeah.
They're just looking for reasons. If they're looking for reasons to pause and that's theirs, well, there you go. So 38% of almost 1,000 respondents, which includes a mix of veterans, service members, and civilians, indicated they plan to wait until after the election to continue their home search, which puts us deep into holiday territory, I'm pretty sure. What was that?
Yeah.
And I just look as an American citizen, not even, and as far as this show goes, I have no opinion. I don't, and I'm just going to keep it that way. But there's a difference between the two parties, depending on how they end up. Who knows who's actually going to be on the ballot in November? I'm not sure we've decided that completely yet, have we? I don't know.
I think so, but
crazy. What? What did you say?
I said I think we know who's like 3 out of 4 who's on the ballot.
Okay, I wasn't sure. You can tell I don't keep too close an eye. But in my opinion, there seems to be there would be a difference, one side versus another. And I'm not saying nothing, but yeah, there's a difference on how one side would treat housing and the economy versus another. That's all I'm saying on that. So it caused me to think, Um, I'm sure Phil's watching it. He's jumping out of his skin. So, okay, throughout most of the last of the year and a half, veterans, now this is interesting. The top issues on the mind of respondents were inflation, housing affordability, job market, taxes, and national security. Enter Israel and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if that, and that seems like on an inflammatory trend. It just seems that way to me. Do you think? It's getting pretty hot over there, is what I'm saying.
Oh man, yeah, the Iran, all that stuff, the Israel, Iran, yeah, that's that's awful. I mean, I don't get it. Yeah, I mean, world's crazy, Andy.
Yeah, but I guess, but as it applies to the economy, it could have an effect. I mean, it just seems to me that it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, good, bad, or indifferent, but it's going to do something. There's going to be some unintended consequences if especially if you know if the United States starts getting involved with Israel, partnering up with Israel and all this stuff. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I don't have. At any rate, so throughout most of the last year and a half, veterans have been more optimistic about finances, about their ability to secure a home loan, and about the national economy more than civilians have. That's interesting. Keep an eye on the Fed, not the president. So here, isn't that the bottom line? The person in the Oval Office has limited control. Has limited control over what the market will do in the short term, noting the two primary barriers to home ownership: borrowing rates and home prices that have been consistently elevated in recent quarters. But there's one person and entity that could have a bigger effect on how the housing market changes in the immediate future: Jerome Powell in the Federal Reserve, and it's expected Powell to remain in his role if Trump is elected. Wouldn't that be a thing to have him get yanked in midstream?
Yeah, I'll say this about the president's, on the president in economy. Like, I think they can do a lot for putting in policies that are restrictive or less restrictive for business, like
Right.
whether you're, Democrat, Republican, independent, or somewhere in between. But they don't have enormous effect or enormous what am I trying to say? They can't put their fingerprints all over the economy, our stock markets and things like that. It's just too big of a machine for them to it's like, well, we'll have a president, but they're not going to be so powerful. They're going to mess up our economy. I mean, honestly, they don't have that much. They have a lot of power, a lot of say, but they can't really dictate our economy.
Right. I know. We just have to see how that goes, and I would
They get
hope
more
that.
blame and more credit, but both sides do. Because our country and our economics are always in a cycle, and we're always getting new presidents, and they inherit good cycles, inherit bad cycles. So yeah, it's always a cycle.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how that goes. But the point being that until the election, until we get past that, it's going to be a conversation, and for me being in the industry, you get this type of year in a couple of months. Won't be too long until, we're going to wait for the holidays to get past. It
Mm-hmm.
won't be long. Halloween. So
Yeah,
let's finish up today's show
yeah.
with this. Um, Rates plummet as the market buys into the big shift, and so we'll kind of cover this topic. This is going to be Rodney's stuff, not mine. But what I wanted to talk about or have him cover was what the hell happened and how did that happen? And I've got slides on this end, Rodney. So you just tell me when and if you need them. So take it away.
All right. Yeah. Rates plummet as it buys into the big shift. This is basically overall the easiest, the layman's terms I think I can put it is since the begin since I guess since when initially rates went up, we've had a couple what I call a false start. And if you've watched the show all the time, you've seen these false starts, because generally I'll be excited about the rate drop and be like, oh, we're going to hopefully see a nice improvement. So after we've seen a couple false starts, we have seen some a great improvement over the last few days, several days, to make everybody believes that this is finally the shift that was needed to see rates on a downward cycle for a more than 30 seconds. Long story short there. But if you want to go ahead and start with the slides, we'll jump in. And this is what I was talking about. If you look at anytime we got to a point that it looked like we were restarting, but when they say what happens is that when the previous high or the current high doesn't match the previous high, it's this is what happened in 2000. It's when it took that really low rate hit there, and that's the Treasury there. Now I know we don't do the Treasury, the 10-year Treasury, but we follow it pretty close. Right. So that's the significance of this, is there's no new highs, meaning it's if you look at it, kind of like an M, so to speak. If you look at the chart, and when you see the M and there's no more new high. I'm not a financial expert, but they have talked about this in several videos and several things I've seen, just to where that no new high mark is a significant milestone, and it usually leads to good improvement. Right.
And then it goes on to talk about the reasons why the things have been bouncing around that they have. So that would be this, right?
Yes. Yeah. You see the first circle over here, weak econ data and friendly Fed. That hasn't been in the last several years. That was a characteristic from a long time ago. Okay, so high inflation data and cautious Fed. This is where Fed's raising the rates over and over and over again. And then we hit this is that same chart where we did not hit the new high, or we didn't match the old high, if that makes sense, right in here. And then you see what you really see is the weak labor market data. And as soon as we got that, after we've been, you got to think that a lot of people already thought we were on our way there. We were hitting our inflation numbers, that we were on track to go to them. We were on track to hit it. And then we got really nasty weak labor data. And then the stock market at the same time just really took it really forced our rates to go down some, the overall mortgage rates. So.
But there we are. I mean, that's as good as you can get.
Yeah, it's I think the excitement comes from the first time that we feel like, that we really may be on a downward trend for a significant period of time. Like, I really feel like we're in a really good place with our rates, with the economy, to where if rates continue to go down this year, we could have some really solid growth in more purchases and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that coming up, kind of winding this down, it's interesting that I'm just excited about the change. I mean, we've been doing this high rate, high price thing, and I don't know that real estate prices are going to change significant. They were talking about, we saw an article, there was like 200 cities across the country where prices are going down and stuff like that. Is that significant? No. It's not like you're selling $500,000 houses for $350 now. It's not like that. They're building in price cuts and things like that. But what I'm so excited about is that if we can get the rates under control, if the rates minimize a little bit, people can start getting excited about moving, about going
Yeah.
someplace. One of the biggest deals is people keep moving south, and one of the reasons is, it's two reasons. It's my understanding. It's because we live here. That's reason number one. No, wait, that's not.
Yeah.
The reason that people are moving to the south is it's warm for folks that are a little bit older. Warm is good. I don't want to. I'm from Colorado. I don't want to shovel snow anymore. But the houses tend to be cheaper. They tend to be more than the Northeast, more than California, that kind of a thing. But there's a lot of people that would love to move to the South, but when they're sitting in a mortgage at 6%, they're not going to do it.
Hmm.
And it seems to me it's going to be an exciting time, and we'll come back to the idea that kind of gets me sweaty, and I mean that in a positive way, if that can be positive, is that it's that pent up demand.
Yeah.
People are ready to go, and if we can get the economy kind of squared away where he's dropping rates and things start to build up just a little bit, but reasonable, no more inflation. If we can do that, people are going to start buying and selling and moving and shucking and jiving, and here we go. That's going to be an exciting time. I mean, I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too. It's going to be a nice when people are, if you're comparing rates at say they got all the way to 5% when they get back, if they ever get back to 5% or whatever. I mean, comparing rates at 4.5%, 5% compared to this 7.5%. I mean, that payment is drastically different, thousands different. So it opens the door for everything,
Yeah.
and plus when the rates are going down, their credit card payments, people's credit card payments are going down. The other interest they're paying is going down. Life is, you get the same, your paycheck goes further when the interest rate is less. Right now your check's going less because the interest rates are terrible. So,
And something else that I don't know that people would think, or it would be common knowledge in a thought process. But as a realtor, over the past few years, one of the greatest pastimes of people, believe it or not, there's a reason that Zillow has 60 billion visits a month. And that's because there's people I would call professional window shoppers. They have no intention of buying a house, but they like looking at houses. That's what they do late into the night, instead of doom scrolling on
yeah,
Instagram, they're looking at houses, and that kind of stuff. Well, for home buyers, over the past few years, it's easy to believe that they got accustomed to looking at a certain amount of house for a certain dollar amount. If you were prepared to save to spend $500,000 in a particular area, let's say that got you a 2,500 square foot house, nicely appointed. Let's say that's what it got you. But then all of a sudden prices go up and rates go up. Now you're looking at a $350,000 house. It's still not cheap, but it doesn't have nearly the appointments you were looking for, like as a garden tub instead of a jacuzzi. And that.
Yeah.
It's tough for people to get excited about a dream when they've had this one,
Right.
And now it's looking more like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, the dream had been, for a long time had been, that's what got us into new construction is cheaper than existing, because they've built in the same neighborhoods with smaller houses, less furnishings, just for the same money, and and you get less of a product. But it's that was their way of affording it, right?
Yeah.
Not faulting them, but it's a way that they could still have the same payment they needed.
Absolutely. I've told people whenever, and I bet you know exactly what I'm talking about here. There are, at least out here, there's developments that will begin. They'll start, let's say Cherry Grove. I mean, how was it 10 years ago they start? And it took them a long time to finish out that development,
Mm-hmm.
So somebody moves in there. They decide they want to move 4 years later. They're still developing that thing, and down in Spring Hill in particular, they're building everywhere. There's a lot of land down in Spring Hill. If you own a 4-year-old home and you decide you want to put it on the market, now you're competing with all those builders
Yeah.
and those, and I'm just telling you, that's tough. You know, those
Yeah.
builders, they know how to sell. And if you have one of your buyers tour your home and go, well, let's go look at one of these new homes.
Hopefully, they had bought at a time where they got a little bit more amenities and maybe a little bit bigger, and you know,
Yeah,
it's
it's just
I mean, the settling wasn't as much for them, but we'll see. It's
it just I always talk to them about the reality that a builder can add value without raising the price. Hey, we'll give you extra grant. We'll give you really nice no touch stainless steel. Not that shiny stuff, but that
yeah,
greasy fingers. You won't see that.
yeah.
But anyway, what a fun show today. I think if I can kind of, and I'd like to hear your final thoughts on this too. Isn't it amazing that not so long ago we went from soft landing to he's doing great? I mean, we were starting to get, I was certainly, and still am, I think Powell's done a good job. I mean, relatively speaking, the economy's still hanging in there, but to all of a sudden have this recessionary talk going on, it just makes people seem to wake up a little bit. We're not out of the woods yet, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, in my opinion, I think, he's waited just a hair long.
Yeah.
But, I'm biased. I'm going to be the first to say that. When I'm a mortgage person, I want rates to be 2% and people buying homes like crazy. So, but I mean, he's forgot more about economic policy than I could start right now and try to learn. So I don't mean it that way, but I will say is that what's he waiting on? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's get these
I bet you if we were to look at the metrics that they take into account, that likely I've never even heard of, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. I mean,
oh yeah, yes.
Good.
Like I could get on this show where it's a one-way microphone, but if he was to come on the show, I would put a mask on. I'd act like somebody else. I'd be like, I know my place in society. I'm not going to say I'm smarter than that guy, but
we'd be both going, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Self-serving Rodney,
yes,
love for him to lower rates so our clients could get better deals.
That's great. Well, any final thoughts, Rodney?
No, just excited about. I think we've drug along the bottom like we've talked about for a long time. I think we're finally starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel on this rate thing.
I think so too. And regardless, I think that you're exactly right. Regardless, I mean, the election cycle that we're in right now is nuts. I mean, it's crazy. But in the end, I think we're going to be just fine. The only thing I'm keeping my eye on, that's not true, not the only thing, but one of the things that I am really watching pretty closely is what's going on, overseas. And that really is out of our hands. And, we'll just have to see how that goes, but I think it's going to be all right. It's going to be exciting. I think we've turned the corner. I believe that that's yesterday's. I think we've turned the corner. I bet.
I hope so.
I'm not just trying to be positive too. Heck, this is facing that. We hadn't even talked about the NAR settlement today. I don't want to get into it, but I mean, we're like 10 days from liftoff, man.
Yes, cool.
We've got a meeting at our office, and I'll leave that out of it. But it is full. We've had to duplicate the meeting on. This is coming. Here's what we do.
I'm not surprised everybody's waiting till the last minute to go to these meetings. That's a shock.
I have such an awesome company. They have managed this beautifully, and it's just. It's interesting because all the agents, realtors alike, everybody's engaged. We're just trying to figure out what's going to be best for the client and survive and make a living at the same time. It's as simple as
Right.
that. Client first. It's always been that. That's not new, but you want to be able
Right.
to make a living as well, and our company is, I
Good.
feel very lucky to be with Benchmark. Very lucky. Very smart people run that thing. So, and that allows me to, sit and do live streams with you on Tuesdays.
That's it. Gives you all this free time.
All this free time, I'm leaving to go pick up signs and lock boxes, but outside of that's okay. Hey, we'll see you next Tuesday, huh, Rodney?
You got it. See ya.
See you, folks. Bye-bye.